The opinions expressed in the following program are not necessarily those of Eastlink Television, its sponsors, or partners.
Hello and welcome to In Conversation on Eastlink Television. I'm your host, Lucky Campbell, and today we are joined with singer-songwriter Jenny MacDonald from Antigonish. Jenny, so nice to have you.
Thank you for having me.
We've been wanting to do this for a while.
Yeah, we have. I'm very happy to be here.
So listen, for those viewers out there who may not know you, I'm sure they have seen you in some other things, but tell us a bit about yourself, where you were born, and maybe who your parents were.
Okay, well, I was born right here in Antigonish, and I lived here since I was 3. We lived out west for a few years, and my parents are Debbie Barry and George MacDonald, and they were also grew up in Antigonish and area, Harbour-Bushy and Antigonish.
All right.
And yeah, I've lived here pretty much all my life.
Right on. So now, are your parents musical?
My dad's side of the family is quite musical. There's 7 kids in his family, and his kids, they all sang and all did the choirs and all that stuff. And I have most of his sisters sing and play a little bit of instruments and write a little bit. I have an aunt who has like a poetry book out, and my grandfather was quite the poet and storyteller. So there's definitely some of that in my family for sure.
So, how many siblings do you have?
I have 2. I have a younger sister and an older brother, Alicia and Kyle.
Right.
Are their names. And my sister actually is taking a theater program through Neptune Theater, and she's also a dancer and a singer as well. So she's hoping to pursue the arts in that way as well.
Fantastic. When did you get your start in music?
I started singing when I was quite young. I was, the kid who I wanted to grow up and be a singer. And I started taking voice lessons here in Antigonish with Sister Lillian Gaudette when I was in about grade 7 or 8. And I started singing then. I started taking a few lessons in like piano and stuff when I was in high school. And yeah, that's when I started.
Right on. So I guess that would be considered formal training.
Yeah.
Talk about your experience with Festival Antigonish.
I love Festival Antigonish. I did my first show with Theater Antigonish actually when I was in grade 9, and it was Julius Caesar, and I played the boy servant in that show. And then I stuck around in the summer and did my first musical. It was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Right.
And I just loved it. I had so much fun, and for a long time that's what I wanted to do. I almost went to music theater school. I kind of went that route. And probably since then, since grade 9, through Theater and Festival Antigonish and Music of the Night and even a company in New Glasgow, I've probably done about a dozen or so musicals. And one of my favorites was probably 2 years ago, I think. I did Adelaide and Guys and Dolls, and that was a lot of fun. And it's a really neat experience to have very talented people. That show was with Brent Bannerman and Cliff Lejeune doing the music and the directing, and it's really neat to have those kind of people and to learn from them. They're definitely very good at what they do, so I definitely learned a lot through the experiences I had there.
Right on. So when did you become a professional artist?
Professional? I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really think that there's a fine line where there's just one day you go from like amateur to professional, but it's definitely a constant growth. I'd say a big step would have been in June when I released my first CD, but probably for about the past year I've been doing performing my own original stuff and performing around the province and around the country. I've gone to Ontario, played through Quebec and Ontario this past summer, in like Montreal and Toronto, and so within the past year, probably the past 8 or 9 months, mostly I've been doing like solely music.
Right. When was your first paid gig? Do you remember that?
Actually, I think it was with Mike Dalton at Wednesday nights at Piper's Pub. He has a show there. He still does it. And he asked me to come and play some shows. And I played there for quite a few months on a regular basis. And he would pay me to go there. So that was probably the first time I got money to do
Right on.
what I was doing.
Okay. Do you have any recordings out? I heard you mention a CD.
I do. I have a CD. It's called Jenny Kissed Me, which is it's a title dedicated to my grandfather, who used to recite a poem by Leigh Hunt called Jenny Kissed Me, and he passed away last year. So it's called Jenny Kissed Me, and I do have it available online through CD Baby. You can buy it in North Grant at Indigo Healing Connections. And if in Halifax, I have it at Oro Preto Cafe on University Avenue, and yeah, a couple other places. So that's the only recording I have so far. I definitely have another one processing in my head. It's not quite out there yet, but there will be another one to come soon.
So how have they been doing? How have the sales been doing?
Really well. It was a whole new experience for me to do a CD and do even the recording, and from the beginning to selling them was all brand new, but it's been going really well. And I was lucky enough that I had it in time when I went and played through Quebec and Ontario, and it did really well out that way. And I've sold some even in the States, like through the online site. And from what I hear, because people will buy them as gifts for other people, that I have a few overseas by the sounds of it and stuff. So it's really neat.
So are the local radio stations playing your material?
I did a special with Dwayne Keller at CJFX here, and I've also done a special with CBC in Halifax with Glenn Meisner and Stephanie Demet, and CKDU in Halifax, which is the Dalhousie radio station, has played it. And yeah, I've sent it out to a few others. Who knows whether they played it or not. And but those ones for sure, I've been getting some local exposure that way, which is really great.
Right on. So when you perform, are all the songs original, or are they cover songs, or is there a mixture?
They're usually all original. I'll usually do an original set, unless once in a while, if there's something that I really like that I've learned, or if I'm playing with a group of people and there's a song that we really enjoy to do, I'll throw it in, or if someone requests a song sometimes. But for the most part, it's all original music.
And they're all written by you?
They are. I write them, and then I give them to, if I'm lucky enough to have musicians playing with me, or even in the recording process, I give them to my friends, and they get to play around with them. And there's definitely some that they're in on the creative side as well. But for the most part, I write the songs, and then they get to add to them.
Right, more or less the arrangement part of it.
Right, yeah.
The original creation.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, talk about the writing of one of your favorite songs.
I think one of my favorite stories that I tell about writing a song is with the song Perfect Line, which is on the album that I have, and it's kind of a gypsy jazz style, which I've played with some of the members of Misha's Dream before, and actually two of the members play on the CD on this song. And so the style was kind of influenced by their style of music. But the way that I wrote it, I had a friend of mine who we were sitting around playing guitar, and I was asking him some questions. I've never actually taken formal guitar lessons, and was kind of asking him some questions, and he was teaching me some tricks, and he taught me how to play half diminished chords. And I went home, and I was like, how am I ever going to remember, like the fingering and, how they work. And I remember that my friend Mike had, in a previous experience when I was trying to learn something else on guitar, I was having trouble focusing and to be able to just sit there and practice this one thing over and over again. And he said, well, why don't you write a song with that in it, and then it won't be like you're practicing, it's just like you're playing a song. And so I kind of applied that to this particular kind of lesson that I learned, and ended up writing a song with these chords so that I would remember how to play them. And it was funny because I ran into him a few weeks ago and told him that, so it was pretty exciting that it ended up on my CD, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so that was kind of writing a song but a learning experience at the same time.
Well, we're out of time for this particular break, but we're going to take a break right now.
Great.
But we'll be back with more In Conversation.
The opinions expressed in the following program are not necessarily those of Eastlink Television, its sponsors, or partners.
And we are back with more In Conversation on Eastlink Television. And we have Jenny MacDonald, singer-songwriter, right here from Antigonish. Love saying that. So, Jenny, we're talking a bit about how you write some of your songs. Who are some of your favorite performers?
Well, lately, since I now live in Halifax, where I go to school, as of September, and since I've been there, I've been really fortunate to meet a lot of songwriters and performers, and it's pretty exciting. There's a lot of great talent coming out of that area and this area as well. And so I've lately been into kind of the local scene and local performers, and like I mentioned Misha's Dream before, I always love to see them, and some friends of mine who created a band called Sister Kate are really great. I have to say that one of my favorite songwriters and performers on both ends is a friend of mine, Ian Sherwood, who I actually met in Antigonish, although he lives in Halifax, through Festival Antigonish. Actually, we played a show together, and just a very versatile songwriter and performer, and he plays multiple instruments, and definitely one of my favorite performers to go and see in the city, for sure.
What style does your music fit into?
I find that one of the hardest questions to answer, because I think that most musicians, I mean, you don't sit down to write a particular style of song, or at least I don't. As a solo artist, I mean, sometimes if you're in a group, then you may have a more specific style, but I think that's a question that people who listen to it have an easier time answering. And I've asked people what kind of style it is, and they always say, well, it's just Jenny, like it's just your style. But I don't know if I can define everything in one style. I love the singer-songwriter description because I write songs and I sing them, and it's kind of the best description. But I've written, like I said, I have a gypsy jazz tune on the CD. There's a couple rock songs, and then there's like ballads and folk songs, and kind of a little bit of everything in there. There's even kind of a country song with some slide guitar, and I like to change it up. I get bored easily. I don't like to do the same thing over and over again.
Well, those are some of the things that make you original, is just investigating those different genres, and then you come up with your own sound. And,
yeah, of course, yeah. And then I think they all kind of end up having some kind of sound that carries through all of them, that ties them together at the same time.
Name some of the people that you performed with in the past year or so.
Well, even within the past couple of months since I've lived in Halifax, I've been really lucky and have played alongside Ian Sherwood and Coco Love Alcorn, who's from New Glasgow, although she doesn't live in Nova Scotia anymore, but she's fantastic as well. And I did an event at the Neptune Theatre with the two of them and Dave Carmichael and some other really great songwriters, which was a lot of fun. Right. And I also got to do a kind of Green Party rally in New Glasgow with Kevin Corbett, who's from Halifax, and Andrea Curry, and Mary Stewart, who's from New Glasgow, and some really great local artists, and even Elizabeth May got up and sang with us.
Really?
So that was pretty cool. So.
Right on. What is the biggest challenge you faced when performing?
I think the biggest challenge is probably staying healthy vocally, and to be able to sing hours a day, a couple hours a day, especially where I'm going to music school now. and then I'm performing in the evenings and on the weekends, and then you're practicing, and it's you kind of have to keep yourself in check and make sure you behave and you're taking care of yourself for the most part, so you can give the best show every time that you go up on stage.
Yeah. You talked about you're studying. So you're studying music?
I am. It's a really neat program. It's a new program with the NSCC Waterfront campus that they just built in Dartmouth.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And it's kind of a combined program with performance and music business, which they do have a music business program as well, but they kind of combine the programs. And it's really neat because it's the first one of its kind in this area to have the business side.
Yeah.
And it's geared toward being an East Coast musician and not towards living in Toronto or New York or, wherever. It's reality based. And
Right.
yeah, we get to do all kinds of genres of music. We have funk ensembles and Latin R&B and jazz and rock and pop, and it's definitely a very diverse program, and it's been a really great experience so far.
Right on. What other interests do you have besides music?
Pretty much anything within the arts. I love to go out and see new things. I love going out to the theater, and I love going out to see. I went a couple weeks ago to see a comedy show with a really great comedy group called Picnic Face, and they were hilarious. They were really funny, and yeah, mostly just kind of. I'm pretty busy doing the music thing, so when I get time, I just like to go out and see what everybody else is doing. Kind of.
Right on. Talk about your fan club.
Do I have a fan club?
You do have a fan club.
Cool. Well, I guess mostly online. That's kind of how everything happens these days. I have a Facebook group, Jenny MacDonald Music is what it's called. And I have a MySpace, Jenny MacDonald, and I have Sonic Bids site as well. And I mostly just use it to keep everyone up to date with things, and especially now that I have people coming to shows and playing in kind of more than one area, that I can, if I'm playing in New Brunswick, I can let people in New Brunswick know, or I can let people in Antigonish know if I'm coming home to play a show, and keep up with things like CDs and stuff like that. So you can usually find me online pretty easily.
So how do you think the internet has affected your career? Has it been a plus thing, or a really positive thing, or has it been really a time-consuming thing then?
It is time-consuming. I think that sometimes there's so many options out there now of different sites you can use, like Facebook and MySpace and Sonic Bids, that sometimes you have to concentrate on one. I also have a website that's coming out, jennymacdonald.com, that's in the process of creating. I'm creating it myself, so that's definitely time-consuming as well.
Right.
Yeah, so I find that sometimes you kind of have to focus on maybe where people are headed most, which site, but it's definitely a really good tool. It's a way to reach people that you otherwise wouldn't be able to reach, and I think that it's opened a lot of doors in the music industry. It's definitely changed the music industry a lot now that things are available online, but it's kind of the new advertising. It's almost like you don't even need like posters and all that kind of stuff anymore, because you have a direct connection with the audience and you can actually send them personalized messages and stuff. So it's really a neat tool.
Right on.
And I use it pretty often.
We've got less than a minute for this segment. Do you have any sales over the internet? Is your songs available for download?
I do have the actual physical CDs available through cdbaby.com, but I also have, you can buy the MP3 version of the CD, so you can download it and put it on your iPod or burn it onto a CD and put it in your Discman if people still use those. And yeah, you can buy the individual tracks or the CD as a whole. And I believe it's on iTunes as well. I found out yesterday. I put my name in and there I was. So they do that through the site that I'm with, through CD Baby. So.
Oh, right on. Fantastic. This is all really fascinating stuff. I'm so happy we got you in here. We got to take a break. We got to take a break right now. But we'll be back with more In Conversation.
The opinions expressed in the following program are not necessarily those of Eastlink Television, its sponsors, or partners.
And we are back with more In Conversation on Eastlink Television. And we have as a guest Jenny MacDonald, who's a singer-songwriter right here from Antigonish, Nova Scotia. And you've been all over the place lately, so...
I have.
Right on. Where do you see the music industry in the next 5 years?
That's a question that could probably be talked about for a really long time. It's really neat, actually. We talk about that a lot in one of the courses I'm taking in school, and it's interesting because people who are in the music industry are kind of nervous right now because a lot of things are definitely changing, mostly with technology and with the internet. And it's been shown that CD sales have drastically decreased, like physical album sales, and so that makes a lot of people nervous because that's where most people were making their money, and that's where all their income was coming from. But we had a really great speaker who came in with the Halifax Pop Explosion. His name's Aram Seinrich, and I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. But he had some really cool things to say, and mostly that although CD sales are going down, every other aspect of the music industry is going up, like live performances and merchandise sales and licensing, putting music in movies and in video games, and games like Rock Band and Guitar Hero and all those things are now becoming a source of income that was never there before. And so I think that it's really neat. I think we're in a spot right now where everything is changing society is changing, the world is changing, everything is constantly changing, and the music industry for a long time kind of stayed the same and is now having to catch up, I think, with a lot of the things like technology. And so I think it's going to be really interesting, and I think that it's important to kind of keep up with all those changes and to keep up with technology. And I don't really know exactly where it's headed, but I think it's going to be fun to find out.
Yeah. So when you're in your talk, did you explore the idea of, the downloadable, approach that people are using for music now? Is that how they're accessing the music?
Yes, and even now people are recording and not actually putting out physical CDs, and they'll have like download cards where you can buy the card which would have like a password or a code on it.
Right.
And so you could go online and download it, and that's what you pay for, or things like iTunes and stuff like that. And now they have a proposed plan where they want to add a fee, because the biggest problem now is that people are downloading for free.
Yes.
And nobody's getting paid for their music. And there's kind of an up and a downside to that. The upside is that more people are hearing your music than ever, which means more people are coming out to your shows and more people are buying other things. And the downside is nobody's getting paid for the music. But
right.
They've kind of proposed a deal where they'll add a kind of tax onto like ISP addresses with your internet connection, and that will be distributed according to, they'll keep track, kind of like SOCAN does with radio, kind of keep track of and pay royalty fees through that, through downloads. And it's definitely a time, I think, where it's a big time for entrepreneurs and stuff, where they're looking for new solutions for kind of the old rules that the music industry always had don't really apply anymore, and they actually don't have anything in a lot of the laws and stuff for the internet, because it just wasn't really an issue when all of the rules were made. So it's the internet and is definitely making the industry different, and it's proposing a lot of problems, but only because we haven't yet really come up with the solution. So I think that in the long run it's a really great tool, because artists who before you needed a record deal and you needed to have millions of fans in order to be successful, now you're able to kind of create a small fan base and kind of thrive off that. And so more artists are able to be successful, and more people are hearing music, and they're hearing more music. So it's it's a really great time in that way.
Right on. And that's the problem that there always existed, I guess, with tapes and CDs was the fact that they could record them personally, you know, with their own home recording devices. And I think that's when the first impact happened with the music. What plans do you have for the upcoming year?
Play. I think live performances are my favorite part, and I am in school right now, so lately I've been kind of leading a double life of music and music, but school and performing, and I've been doing a lot of songwriting, so hopefully within the next year I'll be able to get a lot of new songs recorded and release album number 2, and hopefully in the summer I'll be able to kind of go back to the central provinces. I would love to go out west if possible, and to be able to kind of do some more touring once I'm kind of freed up from school and Nova Scotia winter.
Okay. We've got less than 15 seconds left for this show. Any closing remarks?
Thank you. I think mostly, and I'm available online if anybody's interested in coming to see some shows or hearing some music, and just thanks for having me.
Right on. Well, it's been our fantastic pleasure to have you come in here, and certainly we'll have you in again when you release your next CD. Hopefully.
There you go. Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you out there for joining us, and we'll see you next time on In Conversation.